Welcome. Welcome to the SET Presents for July. Already off to a fantastic start because this time last year when I did the SET Presents, I had a black eye. So no black eye this year. So I think we're, off to a great start. I'm Elizabeth Childs and my co-presenter Devina Dandar, and we're just going to do hopefully a bit of an interactive session with you and share some of what we have learned from both our students around strategies for supporting the student research from an instructor and student perspective. But before we get started, we're going to jump to acknowledge the traditional lands. And I know many of you who are in residency have seen this slide several times. Those of you on the live stream, hello, welcome, thanks for joining us. It's with great gratitude that I come to work every day to work on these lands of the Cossapsum and Lekwungen First Nations and their families, where they have been gathering here and sharing their knowledge and learning together. And one of the connections in my work, I work predominantly virtually. And so for me, the acknowledgement of traditional lands, both for the physical plant of Royal Roads, also then causes me to think in these virtual spaces that we're creating. How are we in those spaces? How are we co-creating them? What is the protocol that we use to help people enter in and share and be part of those spaces? And then do we leave them better than we find them? And so it is with gratitude that every day I come here to work and am able to share in this physical plant, but also go into these online virtual spaces and consider how we also can create this warm and welcome invitation and acknowledgement. So thank you.
This on? Oh, no.
Yeah. It takes about 2 seconds.
Yeah, no, okay. Hopefully okay, I think everybody can hear me now. So some of the outcomes that we'll explore in this session, we're going to take a look at what some student needs are that are specific to the research process. We'll also take a look at program and instructor support, as well as library services and support to assist students here with their research. And then we'll also take a look at some practical strategies of things we can take away when we're working with students, strategies that we can use to support them throughout the research and learning process.
And just in case you can't quite read the text on there, it says, "Your boat is sinking, mind it." And for me, this is really, Devina was very kind and let me insert this photo, which I took when I was at a conference in Ireland earlier this year. And I think a lot of times for students embarking on the research process, this is really what it feels like. That they are sinking a bit, the tide has gone out, someone's telling them to take care, to mind their boat, and they're not quite sure what that means or the means to do it. And so we're hoping that we'll have a little bit of insight from all of you in the room, but also some of the stories that have been shared with us as we go forward. Folks on the live stream, just in case you haven't put 2 and 2 together, this is us. We are here. If you're listening to the recording weeks and months in advance from now, this is who we are. Also wanted to just flag for everybody the Padlet. So it's a public open Padlet. We'll be using it throughout the session. So if you're on the live stream, Samantha is going to be putting that in the chat so you can grab the link there. And at any point, any of you who are in the room can go back and add into the Padlet as well. So please feel free to jump in there. Devina, why don't you go ahead and actually formally introduce yourself?
Oh, great, thanks. Hello everybody on live stream. My name is Devina Dandar and I am the librarian for scholarly communication at the library. And so, we're offering this session today to kind of speak to some of the other library services and support that some students or some instructors might not yet be aware of, things that students might already be using, and how we can kind of connect our strategies in the library and with the program as well to support students holistically.
And I come from the School of Education and Technology at Royal Roads, and we have a Master's in Learning and Technology program. We also have a diploma program, all kinds of other things. But part of my role is helping students as they navigate some of our exit pathways, which can be a thesis, can be an applied research project, or a digital consulting project. So that's where a lot of the stories that we'll share today come from. And whether it's the sinking boat metaphor that resonates with you, or the research puzzle, which is a perhaps a bit more optimistic, we thought we would offer a couple of perspectives. And so just in my experience working with students for over 20 years, navigating the research journey, it is often fraught with this urban myth that research is really challenging to do, which it is in part, but it's also this mysterious adventure that you go on that it has sort of no parameters around it. People are always unsure about the structure and the process. And so I think one of the roles of faculty and thesis supervisors working with students in their student research is to help demystify the process of research, the why we're doing research, the power of doing research. And so that's sort of the lens that I'm bringing as we have this conversation.
And I think, okay, my mic is on. Great. So from libraries' perspective, some of the things that I hear from students when they come with a research question or they want help getting started with research is that research really is like a puzzle. They're not really sure how all the pieces fit together. So developing a research question and developing sub-questions and where do I search for information and how do I search for information on all these different types of resources, and then what do I use to organize and cite my information. And so there's all these pieces in the process, and can kind of be overwhelming at times, a little bit confusing at times, thinking about how you fit all those pieces together and then come up with an end product like, here's the end of my literature review, or here's my thesis or my dissertation. And so we're hoping to demystify some of that today. So in thinking about supporting student research, there are sets of abilities involved with information literacy and the ability for students to be able to consume information but also create information and then participate in collaborative spaces. And so this is kind of just a one sentence kind of quick definition of what is information literacy. And so these information literacy skills and these information literacy abilities are things that students develop as they go through their program, as they're jumping back into research, perhaps after spending some time away from post-secondary education. And these types of abilities are really helpful, and they're really things that need to be developed as students go through that process so that they can set themselves up for success, so that they can move through that research process and that they're able to participate with other peers and to add their own voice to the research that they're doing and the people that they're working with when they go back into the field, especially here at Royal Roads. This pictorial here, I just wanted to pull out some of the information literacy abilities that students work on, the things that students develop as they go through their programs. So for example, developing research questions, and then sometimes students have big topics and they need to determine the scope of their topic. They might need to think about how to apply research methods, choose a research method. They might also need to draw conclusions and seek perspectives from the literature, and then seek to understand where their own perspective and where their own voice fits into that scholarly conversation. And then provide citations, provide attribution for the material that they're using, the material that they're working with, and figure out how to organize all of that and write it. So there's many different abilities that come into play when you think about information literacy and the research process. And so these abilities are things that students are sort of not really developing one at a time, but sort of at the same time and as they collaborate and talk with other people and learn from other people. So it's very much an iterative process in terms of developing the abilities and really thinking about what they need to be successful in research. So some of the things that students have concerns about, or things that we've heard in the library, and some of the things that they need in order to be successful to do research, are things like how to search in the library search tool, which is Discovery, Google Scholar, or navigate other library databases. So we hear, a lot of times students coming from working for a number of years and then coming back into a post-secondary environment, and they say, oh, well, technology's changed, and I'm not really sure how to navigate all of these other databases or how to use this type of technology to help me do this assignment or help me to write my literature review. They might need help with choosing and applying research methodologies. So how do I find articles or how do I find studies that employ this particular quantitative method? They might need help with finding peer-reviewed literature, or understanding what peer-reviewed means and how that's applicable or why that's important to doing a literature review. They might also have questions or concerns around how do they make sure that they're covering all of the top authors or the main voices on their topic. Have they covered seminal works? They might also have questions about interpreting citation counts and what does the role of research metrics mean to the literature that they're looking at. And then things like using citation managers. So how to organize all of that information, how to group that information together, and then how to provide attribution, how to cite it, or how to use a citation manager to help them manage some of that work.
So I think one of the things about the research process in general that you're hopefully starting to get as you nibble on your lunch is that it isn't an isolating process. It's something that's done with a variety of people working together, and which is why it's so lovely to be able to work with Devina on this presentation, because the library has a wide range of supports that they provide to support student research. Faculty have their range of supports that they provide, and so we're going to intersect them for you. Of course, now that you've had, we figured 20 minutes, they'll be done their lunch in 20 minutes, sure. We're actually going to get you up and moving. So if you could humor us a little to take a bit of a pause, we're going to do a liberating structure just to get us talking a little bit about what it takes if you're a student in the room, what kind of support you would like as you think about the research process. Or if you're faculty in the room, or supervisors, or librarians, or other aspects of the research cycle, what kind of support do you provide? And so what I'd like to invite you to do, the directions as you're reading them, some of you might be reading them and thinking, Elizabeth, this is crazy, it's very confusing. It's actually pretty straightforward, so I'm gonna walk you through it. Folks on the live stream, what I would like to invite you to do as you see round 1, 2, and 3, for you, round 1 will be putting something on the Padlet post. For you, round 2 and 3 will be responding to a Padlet post. Folks in the room, we're gonna take this space over here, so all these tables are gonna go over there. All these tables are gonna go over there. I need 2 circles. Small one in the middle, big one outside. You should be across from someone. So face, inside and outside circles face each other. Okay, go, please. So, nice circle. So we need an inner circle. Here you go. Inside. Okay, you got it. You got it. I'll let Devina do that circle.
Okay, so an inner circle and then...
An inner circle facing the outer. Yep.
Okay, great.
So we need a more inner.
Yeah, so we need a couple more people in the...
So you want an equal number, so you've got a partner to talk to. So we need someone
kind
here.
of people to kind of just move around that way.
How are we doing over here with our circles?
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Are we good? Equal number, inner, outer. Do we have an extra? You need someone? Okay, we need someone down at the other end. Perfect. See, it all works out.
Great.
All right. So,
Oh yeah, and then
we're good? You need an extra person?
No.
We're good. Okay.
They're good.
So round 1, the outer people start, people on the outside. And the person you're looking at is the person you're going to be talking with. And you have 1 minute to either share how you support students in their research or share how you would like to be supported. So this is free talking. There's no script. Pauses are fine. And we'll take a minute, and you will then hear some kind of belly thing happen on my phone. And that's the cue for you to stop talking and start listening. And the inner person will then share back to you. Okay? Any questions before we start? Ready? Spaghetti? Okay, let's go. All right, that's our 1 minute. Oh, now I have to make it stop. All right, so now the inner person is sharing and the outer person is listening. So we'll switch, same questions.
So one of the things that I'm looking for is more of what we got today, understanding which ones is when, because there's always those little kind of boutique databases that you never use very often, but they're there, and sort of being able to talk to somebody and say, hey, this number might be good in this particular service. I'm worried is missing something, and I don't mean that I need to get everything, but there's there's an important nugget that I'm not aware of, so that kind of guidance.
All right. All right, folks, that's the gong for that round. Take a moment to thank your conversation partner. And the outer ring, you're going to put up your right hand. Outer ring, right hand. Excellent. Take a step to your right, outer ring. Excellent. See, it seems so complicated. So now, folks on the live stream, you're going to start commenting on people's Padlets. And folks in the room, this is your chance to share how you support students or how you'd like to be supported in your research. You might refine your pitch from the conversation that you had previously. It might be the same one. And we'll have the outer ring start. I know you just got started, but it's time to switch. So, inner ring, you may now share your support, either as a student or instructor, with the outer ring partner. Please go ahead. All right, everybody. I know the minute goes so fast, but that is the end of round 2. So folks on the live stream, if you want to jump in and comment on any Padlet post, that's great. Outer ring, please raise your right hand. Well done. And please move to your right. One person. Thank your partner. This is the last round. Okay. New partners, you've got the rhythm now. Outer ring, please share how you support your students with their research or how you would like to be supported. Go ahead. Okay, that's 1 minute. Inner ring, this is your last chance to say your pitch. So inner ring, go ahead, you have 1 minute. All right, everybody, that is the final round. Please take a moment to thank your partner. And I am going to ask and invite you to come back and enjoy the rest of your lunch. Thank you very much for participating in the double circles.
I see the point of it now.
So we're just going to take a minute to debrief that ever so slightly. Thank you very much for indulging us and participating in that. You generally, if you haven't experienced liberating structures, they're a fantastic resource. The link is in the slide deck, so you're welcome to go. They have guidelines on how to run all kinds of different liberating structures to really try to allow multiple voices into the conversation in an equal, inclusive, and respectful way. The reason you do 3 rounds in that activity is because no one can stand for more than 3. No, I'm kidding. Your legs get tired. Because by the time the 3rd round, I don't know if any of you experienced this, where your story either got repetitive or you had added new things into what you were saying based on the earlier conversations that you had, which is kind of what we were hoping. So hopefully you experienced some of that. So we are going to type a little bit. Devina's going to type here. Excuse me. And then we'll share the slide deck. But would anyone like to share sort of some thoughts that came out of either the conversation you had or you're thinking now as you've had 2 seconds to sit down around the support you either provide to students for their research or as a student, the support you think you would need? Anyone have any thoughts they'd like to share? And Sam, if there's anything on the chat, just feel free to let me know. I know you're exhausted, right? Where are you out? Rosie? Oh, I have to give you the mic because of the live stream.
One of the things I always hear from students toward the end of their program is, I wish I had known that was available to me before or now. So again, please reach out to your program associates. They will help guide you in directions of support when you need it. So when you get to that point where you're feeling overwhelmed, writing, researching, whatever it is, counseling, coaching, whatever you need, make sure you reach out along the way, and don't be one of those people who goes, oh, I wish I'd known about that sooner.
Such a good point. Other comments?
Hi, this is Mayank. I am in last quarter of MGM, and I really value your thoughts that I am in last quarter, and I feel the previous slide she showed, there was a topic that how to figure out top authors. I have been using the library database from last 9 months, and it is really helpful. Creating a mass map and putting the keywords from there, you get a lot of peer-reviewed articles for your assignments. The only thing what I found here was if you get some top authors to figure out, that will help you give more value to your assignments. Yeah.
Super. Thanks for sharing that. Sam, anything on the chat for the live stream? Oh, here.
So R. Chang says that was a productive, liberating structure, and also says it would be great if learners are prompted that it is normal to experience confusion or being confused when exploring the research process. So.
Absolutely. It is normal to feel uncomfortable, right? You're learning, it's change, it's different. And so there is going to be that tension between, oh, I wish I just knew the whole recipe and could get this done, right? And the challenge is it's through the process that comes. Thank you, Devina, for typing so quickly. I'm just going to switch us to the Padlet and just quickly see, or maybe, can you help me do that? Thank you. Excellent. Thank you for everybody who's in there on the Padlet. And we will keep this live, so feel free, afterwards we can use it as a resource. We'll dump our resources, we'll put our resources from our last slide in here, so you'll have them as well. So, we thought we'd do, we've done that one. I thought I'd give you a bit of an example. So I know many of you are not in the School of Education and Technology or in the Learning and Technologies program. And I had the best intentions to reach out to our entire school and get their thoughts for how they support students in their research, and then time ran away with me. So unfortunately, you're just going to get a little sliver from my perspective, but I really encourage you to talk to your associate faculty, talk to your faculty members, talk to your thesis supervisors about, have that conversation. How do you support students in doing their research? And enter into that conversation. So here are some examples that we do in the Mallet program. So we spend a fair amount of time around critical reading and writing. Because there's a lot of reading that you do in a master's program and a graduate program. And so we talk about reading the 3 times technique. So once for overview, once for methods, and once for clarification. We do strategies for managing the volume of reading. So lots of opportunities to have audio read to you. Some of the books that are used are actually in audiobooks, and you can find them that way. Others have used the lovely robotic reading from your computer, which, in a pinch, can get you through a good GO train commute from Oshawa. We talk about the 2 notes technique when you're making your notes of your readings, whether you're using Notably or some of the more electronic tools, or whether you're just actually hand doing it, which still happens, and it's okay. Slicing your page in 2 and writing the notes to yourself and the notes to, some people use their mom, their dad, their boss, something that you would distill up to share with someone. So you're going to have your own notes from an article, but then you're going to have that kernel that you really wanted to take forward and share more broadly. And so that's one technique that we talk a lot about. We talk about approaches to asking good questions. So thinking of reading an article as more of a conversation with the author and less of a task to do. And so sitting down and inviting that author of the article to talk with you and read through your work and think about the good questions if they were there in person or you had them on Skype that you would ask them. Some of our students actually do go and ask them. They find them on Twitter, they find them in ResearchGate or other ways and follow up and ask some of those questions and get a deeper understanding of the context of the research. Creating your own reflection prompts. So we spend a lot of time talking about peer and self-reflection in the program and providing strategies for that. But as you're entering into the research process, and personally I would argue as you're entering into your graduate program, the value of keeping a research or a thought journal or a field notes journal, anything that tracks the decisions that you're making in your thinking, so that when you get to the other end and you're trying to write them up and provide literature support that backs your judgments and your claims that you're making, you remember why you made the decision you did, because 2 years goes by very quickly, 9 weeks in a course goes by very quickly. So finding a way to really track your thinking and the changes in your thinking can be very helpful. We talk as well about a critical friend relationship and what is the role and the purpose of a critical friend? How do you find one? What do you expect from them? What might they expect from you? And so that notion of having someone that you are comfortable sharing your written work with, that you're comfortable getting hard feedback on, positive, constructive criticism that is going to push you to refine your work even further, and that you can have that relationship with, and how do you cultivate that, and who might that person be? So we spend some time setting up strategies like that and approaches. In the Mallet program, we have research threaded throughout the program. In each of the courses, there's an aspect that touches on it. There are 2 specific courses on research. And then as a little side spark from this collaboration, we're talking further, and we'll be talking further within our school and with the library and the Writing Center and others about how we might do a little sort of mini-series, little short informal bits around aspects of research and the research process, like bias and limitations and delimitations. What are they? Why are they important? And so having some types of little touch points for them. The process support that offers through the program would be as you're working with your course instructors, but also as you're working on your exit pathways, whether it's thesis, in our case, an applied research project or a consulting project. That's part of the role of the academic lead in those cases, is to provide you with that process support. And there are handbooks that help outline it. So I think the message that I would leave for you, you can, in that link up there, and folks on the live stream that are seeing it hopefully clearer now, thank you for your patience with the slide deck. In the link on that page, if you go to documents, you can get all of the handbooks for the different exit pathways in the program. And part of every handbook talks about the different chapters in the finer paper deliverable, things to consider in those chapters, questions to ask as you're writing a literature review or thinking about your methodology section. And so those are open, Creative Commons. You can go and take a look and maybe use, modify pieces that are useful for you. And just because I was feeling really badly, because I was feeling really badly that you were just getting my little tiny window into this, I sent a note out to our Mallet students and said, okay, here, we're doing this presentation. What have you done? What support have you received? What would you like to receive? And so I just blew Brandon's up a little bit larger so you could read it. And he was very clear that the library and writing center supports were so valuable for him. Things he'd like to see were sort of an open educational resource about different topics that people have done in the past, right? Being able to jump in and see other topics. We have something like that on our set.royalroads.ca, where you can see student research, past student research, and you can see the title and abstract of theses that have been done. And in the library DSpace, which Devina told me is called something else now, viewer space, you can actually look up past theses, which is, again, really helpful to be able to both see what others have done, look at their reference list, see what shoulders they're standing on, and maybe connect with some of those articles that way as well.
Great. So thank you, Elizabeth, for sharing a bit about the program support. I'm going to be speaking about some of the library services and supports that we have for faculty and instructors, as well as for students. And so I'm actually going to just kind of, hopefully, everybody on live stream can hear me, because I'm going to be going into the library homepage to show some of these things, or to speak to some of these things, and kind of using the slides at the same time. So in terms of the library services that we have for instructors and how the library is supporting instructors to help them support their students, one of these ways is by helping them to identify course readings. So we do offer research help for students where they can come and they can book an appointment with the library. And so a lot of instructors book the same types of appointments where they let us know a little bit about the course that they're working on, some of those topics, and then we help to craft, develop some search strategies and point them to places where they can find material for them to be able to develop their reading lists. And we also provide some sample results that way. And so through that, we support instructors with just finding some of that information and some of the search strategies that might be relevant to the topics that are covered in that course. We also support assignment planning and instruction. So we will connect our library resources or some of our instruction sessions to a particular assignment, especially if there is a research component that's built into that assignment. And so what we'll do is we'll try to connect the research that students will do for that assignment to our library resources to make sure that the scope of our collection and the resources that we have connect with that assignment. So that's helping to set students up for success in that way. And then also thinking about what are the skills that students are going to need to have in order to be successful to do the research to have that assignment be done successfully, and what ways can we use our instruction to support that. We also have library guides that are available, and I'll go in and show you that on our homepage. But we have library guides that are available to instructors if they're looking for sources for their classes, or if they're looking at a particular type of information like market research, or even things like academic reading. And so I'll go ahead and show you what that looks like now. So this is our library homepage. And so on this homepage, we have a box that's kind of in the main area here for all of our resource guides. And so faculty, instructors, staff, students are all welcome to use these guides. And so, for example, the library recently created a guide to support students with academic reading and how to read academic articles, and how to, go through a journal article and what to look for when you're reading the abstract. And that was directly related to feedback that we got from instructors and faculty and program staff about things that students needed in order to be able to do their research. And so this is an example of one of those connections there, and it's one of our popular guides. We also have other guides that are available if instructors need it. So for example, copyright information for theses and dissertation publications. So we do have a lot of students, and we also have a lot of instructors or faculty that come to us and say that our students are looking to publish their thesis or their dissertation, and what information do they need to know around the copyright. So for example, here's another one of our guides that is frequently used to support some of that. I'll go back a little bit to talk about instruction. So when faculty or instructors are needing research skill sessions, or they're needing the Ask the Librarian Moodle forum, for example, to support some of that research, they can also go down to a box here for services, and we actually have an instruction request form that when you click on it, it provides you an overview of the instruction that the library provides to support students' research. And if you click on the Begin button, there's actually a little description about the about the instruction session and how it can help to support that research. So for example, if there's a research skills session, and if instructor or program staff might click on that, it would give them some information about the kinds of things that students will learn in that session. So for example, differentiating and using library resources, and some of the best tools to support academic research, or practicing keyword searches and developing search strategies so that they can search in some of those resources to find peer-reviewed information, for example. So this is just another example of some of the services that we have available to support instructors and staff here. And then the last one is we have a relatively newer resource called Sage Business Cases, and in this database we actually have teaching notes for some of these cases that can support instructors that way. And I'm actually going to just go back to the library homepage here, to show you where that is, because I've not yet been into our library databases tab. So that tab is just directly beside our main discovery search tool, which I had mentioned earlier in this session. All of our databases are sorted from A to Z. They're sorted alphabetically. And so under S, we have Sage Knowledge, and there's actually business cases in here. So instructors, if they are using business cases, they're able to, and I'm just going to sign in really quickly, they're able to go in and get some of the teaching notes for that. Thank you. Let's stand this up. Thanks. Yeah, I'll probably just do that and use one hand. Right, so in this Sage database, the business cases are available here, just kind of on the sort of main section of that page. So you're able to search for business cases depending on what topic you might be covering. And for example, if I were to click on one of the featured cases here, there's often a section for teaching notes, and so instructors, if you're wanting to use business cases or you're needing library access, you can contact us to get the access for the teaching notes that way. So that's just another way of how the library supports instructors with helping their students with research. I mentioned the Ask a Librarian Moodle forum, and so I wanted to go into that in a little bit more detail because so much of the learning that students do here at Royal Roads is online, and so the Ask a Librarian forum is embedded into any course or to courses that have a research component. So for example, students might be working on a literature review, or they might be working on an annotated bibliography, for example. And so what we'll do is we'll provide point of need support where students can go in and ask us questions in that forum, and we will respond to it within that week. And usually we are in there for about 3 days, spread out over the course of a week, so students have the time to ask questions and engage in discussion and just sort of absorb the information that we put in there. And so that's point of need support. As I mentioned, we connect it to assignments. So for example, a literature review, and we'll collaborate with instructors beforehand to figure out what research skills, what information literacy abilities students are going to need in order to successfully complete that assignment. And then we answer student questions. So students need help developing their topic or coming up with a strategy, or they can't find information on their topic, for example. We'll answer all of those questions, and we try to generate discussion in some of those forums. Some of the content that we cover in the Ask a Librarian forums are things like getting started using library resources. We do tips and tricks for accessing the full text of resources, other tips and tricks, like developing a search strategy, evaluating resources, choosing research methodologies, and sometimes we also go into setting up and using a citation manager so that students are able to have that help them to organize their literature. So some of the other services that we have for students are the research skills sessions that I was mentioning and our instructions. So we come in at the beginning of residencies, and we'll do if we're on your residency schedule, and we'll do quick orientations so that you're oriented to what our resources are and how the library can help you. I've covered the types of research skills sessions that are available to students. We also offer research help where students can ask the library a question using our online Ask the Library link, which is linked to at the end of this session. And they can also book an appointment with us if they'd like one-on-one support. We've also recently created a short, quick video series to help students get started with their research. Some of the 3 main things students ask us, like defining their research topic, identifying main concepts and keywords, and developing a search strategy. And then I had pointed out the guides and citation managers. And so this is just a very short list of some of these services. So definitely contact the library or get in touch with us if you'd like to know of other ways that we can support you.
So when we were collaborating to put this together and got talking about the different ways that we each try to support student research, there were obviously some really clear connections and crosswalks. So we thought we'd come up with a few that we could share with you. So both from the library perspective and the programmatic perspective, there's some really thoughtful, just-in-time embeddedness of library and research skills throughout the program. So Devina spoke about the Ask a Librarian in Moodle, and I spoke about having the library in at different key points along the program. And so we found that to be really, really helpful and really beneficial as we go forward. Devina?
Great. Another way that these strategies are connected is in terms of sourcing relevant information. So search strategies and sharing team libraries, for example. So if students have found lists of materials that are relevant to them, and just being able to have that chance for collaboration, as well as the ability to find theses and dissertations in our viewer space repository. So oftentimes students wanting to see what former students have done themselves. Also support for managing the readings. So we had mentioned citation managers as an example. So we'll show students, or we'll help students in the process of setting up something like Zotero or Mendeley to help them manage the volume of reading that they need to do. And Elizabeth had mentioned the strategies for annotations and field notes and sharing. So being able to connect some of that with a citation manager to organize all of that.
And definitely that ongoing support. So I know when Devina pulled that up, you may have quickly seen the SAGE Research Methods database. So instructors and students, a very helpful resource. You have access to it through the library. It is worth taking time to go through it, take a look, explore the pieces that are useful and relevant to you. And it's something that we try to tie in as often as we can when we're working with students. And then the final one is the Q&A sessions. Of course, you can reach out via email individually. And I love that. I didn't actually know that existed, the little librarian and the Ask Them Come and the whole checklist. That's fantastic. So I obviously need to spend more time on the website too. But connecting with the library, with the Writing Center, with your program head, with the program admin, and reaching out. And back to the earlier point that was raised in our discussion, your research question is your own and you're doing your student research, but you have supports around you. So definitely tap into them as you go through the research process. So we were hoping in the last 5 minutes that we could just take a few minutes for you. There's some stickies on your table, just to reflect for 30 seconds, 1 minute. If you're an instructor, what new strategy was exposed to you today that you might start to implement, and what do you need to do it? And if you're a student, what new strategy was highlighted by this session that you might think, it's kind of an interesting, I might try that one. And what would you need to try it? So I know many of you are rushing back to class because class starts at 1. Those of you on the live stream, feel free to jump into the Padlet and add these reflections. And maybe what we'll do, just as you're taking a moment to think about that, is pull up the resource list so you can see that there are additional resources. We've created a playlist in the Mallet program of different ways to support critical reading and writing. So there's a link there to the playlist. And then all of these other links sort of take you to those main descriptive categories. We will definitely share this, and we can even share this out in different ways as well, through Twitter on the library and through the Mallet hashtag. So before we close, would anyone like to share thoughts, strategies that's come to mind given the presentation, the last few moments before you all scoot off? Anyone on the live stream, feel free to jump into the chat. Yeah.
Thank you. I'd be very interested in learning more about the audio reading aspect and how we can find, if it's through discovery or another way, how do we link to articles that we can listen to?
Okay, great. Thank you for thanks for your question. Depending on where you are finding your articles, or depending on what ebook or what ebook platform you're looking at, if you have something like a like if you're using your computer, for example, you might be able to do that. But some of our ebook platforms have that ability where you can actually like listen to the audio. And so if you're looking for something like that, on the library homepage in the find box, we actually have a quick way to take a look at all of our ebook platforms. And if you're wanting to for example, to search for ebooks in some of these, you can go ahead and do that. Some of the main ones that students are using are ebook Central, which is right here in like our ebook collection there, and then we also have Books 24/7 as well. So you definitely feel free to look at any of these. And also feel free to connect with us if there are other articles or things like that, and you're just trying to figure out how to get audio for some of that. We do have other resources, other people that we can put you in touch with that can help you to sort some of that out. So thanks for that question.
Samantha, do we have anything on the live stream? All right. Any other questions, comments, thoughts you'd like to share? I know you're perched, ready to go. I got to get to class. All right. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Have a great afternoon. Thanks, live stream, and enjoy the rest of your day.